Here I am, guys. I'm going to talk about one of my heroes of World War II. I don't know, now that I'm a movie maker and all that stuff, I'm gonna scan it, I think, and maybe put it the first frame of this or something if I can. I don't know, but maybe you can guys can see that she was an American. Josephine Baker. She was an American performer and had been a comedian and that kind of thing. And she ended up a lot of blacks expatriatic to Paris. A lot of them Europe and a lot of them England because England actually abolished slavery way before we did. They did it, if I'm not mistaken, in the early 20s. If I'm not 1820s, if I'm not mistaken. But always, uh, check my facts, if you like. But I'm pretty sure I know they abolished it before, and of course it was never in Canada, and that's why slaves followed the North Star. So anyway, she was a performer in the 30s. She ended up going to Paris to just perform, and when she got over there, she realized all the freedoms that she had. She came back to America one last time. No, she came back to America to visit for a while, and then when she, after having lived in France, in Paris actually, and being treated like everybody else, she came back to America and was like, oh my gosh. And she did a show for Ziegfeld Follies. I know you guys heard of that. And so what she ended up doing was the hotel where she was staying, she couldn't come through the lobby, and she was married to a white man. He could walk through the lobby, but she couldn't walk through the lobby. When she went to, now she had the biggest suite in the hotel, but she couldn't walk through the lobby. She had to go through the kitchen and go up the kitchen elevator to go to her room. So after that experience, she went back to uh, France, back to Paris. Ended up being caught there during the German occupation. So, she just happened to be there when the war started and the whole thing went down. She, um, my character, my heroine in my second book is uh, patterned after her. Is inspired by her. She was in Paris. She was an entertainer when the Germans occupied, and she actually was in the resistance. And her contribution to winning World War II was like sleeping with you know. Well, here's what happened. Here's what she'd do. She'd get a German officer or something like that, and she'd, wine him and dine him and, rotate his tires, and she'd be in one room, like, you know, giving him, what for. And a kid or, one of her other people in the resistance would be in the other room rambling through his briefcase, taking pictures of the stuff that was in it. But she could have actually gotten into a lot of trouble. She could have actually gotten, transported east. She was really pressing her luck, but it was one of the things that I would hope I would have the courage to do. Also, my character in the second book, like I said, it does take place in World War II, and the character is modeled after her. Um, my character in the second book, she decides, well, I'm not going to actively be in the resistance, but I'm not going to tell if I see anything. And if there's anything I can do, I'll do it. But she ends up in the resistance. She ends up helping because parents, what happens is Paris is declared an open city. And the reason they did that was that they didn't want Paris destroyed. They knew the Germans were coming, and they knew what the Germans did. So they just said, look, it's an open city, just, and they did something really funny. They took all the art treasures out of the Louvre and like hid them under people's beds and, hung them up, put posters in front of them and stuff so that their art wouldn't be looted, because a lot of the Germans would just loot the art from the different countries that they, and not only did they, steal things from the Jews that they killed, but they actually would go into a country, take their artwork, take their statues, take their wines, and it because actually it's one of the funny things. My character in the second book is she drinks all her wine because her Moët Chandon, because she doesn't want the Germans to drink it. So the day that the Germans actually march into Paris, she has a hangover because she stayed up, half the night drinking all her wine because she was determined they weren't going to get it. And so Josephine Baker, she couldn't have any kids of her own. She adopted like I don't know 10 kids, and she um, a rainbow coalition is what she had. She traveled so much to different countries and stuff, so she ended up um, she'd pick up a kid here, pick up a kid there, kind of like the superstars do now. They go and adopt. It's very chic to adopt a black kid. But she, at that time, just adopted kids that needed her. She wasn't very old when she died. She actually lived long enough to perform with Mick Jagger and a few people like that. I don't think she lived into the 70s. I'm not sure. But she is one of my heroes because she wasn't afraid to, do what she had to do to help the war effort, and of course it worked. So my character does a lot of the same things she does, but something kind of happens. It's something you got to read. Something kind of happens, but also my character in the second book has a has a Jewish lover who gets transported east. And I'm toying with a lot of things as far as that's concerned. I know I have to write up some camp stuff, but I am, not looking forward to that's going to be kind of bad. But I've done a lot of research about World War II. I've always wanted to write something about that era, but I knew I didn't have enough knowledge to write something nonfiction. And I have a million World War II books over there. So I decided that the way I could get to write something and maybe teach people about that era is to write it in fiction form. But a lot of the stuff is true, so that's going to be pretty hard. But I got to get the first one. I got to catch up with where I left off, where I deleted from. Once I get there, I'm gonna stop and start working on the other book because there's no need to go over and over and over it again. I won't go over it again, the whole thing again, until it looks like I'm gonna get published or I find an agent, she wants to see some of it or something like that. I'm not gonna mess around with it much longer because it's time to move on. The only reason I had to go back was because out to the first book was because it would be just my luck. I'd leave it nasty, just leave the backup version, and that would be when they want to see it. And I thought, well, I better work on it a little bit. So I think I'm on 6. And I think 6 was maybe the last one that the last section that I deleted, I'm thinking. So I'll see. I can tell. But like I said, when I get through with 6, I might go through 7 just to make sure that I didn't accidentally erase 7. And then after that, once I kind of look at it and make sure it's okay, because the end of it is pretty clean. The end of it's pretty darn clean, because right about the end of it is when I realized it's too many words. It's too much. It's too much in here, and it doesn't move the story along. That's one of the things you have to look at. If does this move the story along? If it does not move the story along, then you need to take it out. And also in the first book, there is one of the vehicles that I use is my character keeps a diary, keeps a journal, and basically that's where you find all her thoughts, all her prejudices, what she thinks about this, all this stuff she keeps to herself. Um, when she goes to New Orleans, there's a lot of things she writes in her journal about her trip and about her new station in life and about going overseas, about going to England and all that stuff like that. And it really, uh, I tried not to let it like roadblocks, like totally stop the action. But I actually had to stick that in there because I'm not a real long-winded narrator. I think more of the story comes across in dialogue. What really happens comes along in dialogue, and if you say it in the dialogue, you don't have to say it again, in narration. But um, that's something I've been like, trying to work on. I mean, it's a learning. You never it never ends. It never ends. You always learn uh, as you go. That's basically all I can tell you about writing. You learn as you go, and then once you're done, that's when you have to go back, clean it up. I'm thinking one more time, it should be perfect. Just one more look over, glance over. So that's why I said when I get through with 6 or 7, or whichever one was the last one, I accidentally deleted. And you best believe I have it backed up 4 times now. I'm not losing. But then like I said, it might have been a reason. Might have been a reason it was supposed to, gone. Except I just wish I hadn't wasted all that time writing all that stuff I ended up having to take out anyway. But hey, that's life. So also, my character in the second book has a real moral dilemma because of the man she's involved with. And that character, the male character in the second book, the male hero, quote unquote, in the second book, uh, really went through a transformation because when I first wrote him years and years ago, when I first wrote this story years and years ago, when it came to my mind, I just wrote something down. Like I said, everything starts with handwriting. I handwrite everything at first, and not all the way through, but I start by handwriting, and then when I get stuck, I handwrite, and I keep my notebook with me. So if something comes to me really quick, I write it down, and then I go back and plug it in. And what I had done with him was I made the mistake a lot of writers make at wanting um, my readers to like him, and it's not necessary for you to like a character. You don't have to write like a character. A lot of people don't particularly care for Scarlett O'Hara. She's a bitch. But I was because he's a controversial character, and the relationship he has with the heroine in my second book. Uh, I don't know. He kind of mutated. That's not the word. I know that's not the word I'm looking for, but it's the word. From kind of being kind of somebody who really didn't know what was going on in the European theater. I had him in North Africa, where of course he didn't know nothing about nothing. He was just in North Africa. Then he kind of evolved into a character who kind of was stationed in Paris and was just kind of a playboy, and nepotism got him this he was still a little more dangerous than the other one, you know but the first character, the one that was in the North African theater. But I was, as it looked like I was finishing the first book and I was getting close to being finished, and I started working on that, I realized, that I had wussied out, that for this to work, um, that he had to be bad. He had to be do some of the things that we look back of atrocities that the um, Nazis did commit, that I had wussed out on the character. Like I said, I tried to make him likable, and you don't have to like him, even though there are compassionate parts to him, and and in the end, he decides that he's going to um, straighten up and fly right. It's too little, too late, but he decides that he's going to do this. And my heroine, she pretty much stayed the same. She's pretty much from the time I conceived her, she pretty much stayed the same as far as looks are concerned, as far as what she does is concerned. But like I said, I really haven't had time to really develop a lot of the character because of having to go back and do that other work on the other book. I just wouldn't have felt secure because suppose somebody had said, okay, well, let's look at the first, 100 pages, and then would have some crap to send them. And then what I was afraid of was that I'd compromise the work by just trying to rush up and just send them anything. So I decided it's best to be prepared, because I have a feeling, I know it takes, I think my writing teacher told me it takes like a year from the time they decide to publish to, or one of the writers that came to our class told us to take from the time they decide they want to, publish a book till they actually do. It takes about a year. And I didn't want to be rushed. I didn't want to be rushed. So what I did was went on and worked on that. And then just as soon as I'm done, then I'm going to start working on the second book so I can just be, starting on it. If it ends up that the first book, there really is a part two. It's just a rough draft and it's garbage. But there is uh, a bit of a when my character in the first book, they go to New Orleans, they go to England, and there's a lot about um, there actually is a second book with her in England. I just feel like maybe that I don't want this to be one of those serial things that you get tired of it after a while, like TV shows like Friends, they just go too long. They should have stopped it, way back. But so I don't want to get into caught up to anything like that. And like I said before in one of my other videos, if push comes to shove, what I actually would do is write them both at the same time. If they really want part two, I will give that money to my grandkids. If I end up having to write a part two, I will give it to my. And plus, I think there's a lot of interesting things that happened to her in England, actually. Um, and That's more of the romance formula. It's for her to be in a spooky old castle in England, and scared, and stuff is going on. So um, I think I'm at about 1740 something now. I think I'll end this. I think I will talk about I see. Oh, I know what I'm going to talk about. People want to know what I like to look at on YouTube. And one of the shows I like to look at on YouTube, I will tell you guys about when I come. It's not funny, but it's funny, but it's not. And I'll do that. And then I think I'll do one more thing. And then I think that's it because I'm pretty tired. So, see you guys later.